Good morning. We're going to do things a little differently this morning. We're going to have announcements first, and then we'll do the prelude and start the service. So our first announcement, Marie Laurie, please come up and tell us about the vote.
Good morning, Marie Laurie from Social Justice Committee. You all have a flyer, I'm assuming, a second little folder today. Also in the e-blast, on Facebook. You're going to get really tired of hearing about this from us for the next couple months. But we're really excited to announce that we are going to try to become what I recognized Good Trouble community. So that requires, that requires us to do some things. The first page on the inside tells what we need to do. We need to meet 4 of 7 criteria. The easiest one is 2 congregants are line warmers, poll workers, or poll watchers. We've already met that one, at least. We need to get 20% of us involved in some way in getting out the vote this fall. And then there are other options with letter writing, postcard writing, door knocking, phone calling, texting. So we have set up as a first step, you'll see in here some days. We will meet in Adams Hall. Bring your mask and your best handwriting. We will be writing letters to get out the vote. With Vote Forward, we'll be starting, and then there are a couple of other organizations that we'll be supporting. Writing to people in underrepresented communities, trying to get them out to vote, making sure that they're able to vote, just pushing people to vote. We will also be able to support the amendments. Proposals 2 and 3 are really important this fall. We'll be able to do that as well. And those things will be coming, but we're starting with the letter writing. I hope you can all join us in Adams Hall. If you have questions, on the back of the folder is the guidance on what we're allowed to do. So that is one of the questions that comes up. Are we as a church allowed to do this? We are definitely allowed to get out the vote. We are allowed to promote proposals. We cannot endorse candidates. We can talk about what candidates say about their points. So we can say candidate X is pro-choice. We can't say you should vote for candidate X. It's all very clear on the back here if you have any questions. If you have any other questions, please hit one of us up. I'm happy to answer any that you have. And I hope to see you at one or more of the letter writing dates. Thanks.
Linda Brown, you have an announcement?
Hi, Linda Brown from the board and fundraising. First of all, for everybody, I see a lot of people here who managed to make it here after coming to the auction last night. So give yourselves a hand because it was a great time. And sadly, we don't have the numbers to share with you yet. So Mark will probably have those next week, and he's not up here because he's down with the kids. But we did still have some food left from last night and some leftover condiments and things. So please stop down in Adams Hall because whatever people don't take home, we'll probably have to throw out. So, let's conserve. Come down and grab some stuff and take it home with you. Oh, yeah, thanks. And we have, I know I overate on Bev's apple crisp, so. I don't know if we have any apple crisp left. I'm afraid that's probably gone, but there's a little bit of other stuff. And like I said, like half a bottle of ketchup. So please come and take it.
Are there any other announcements, Bev?
Hi, I'm Bev Church, and this afternoon I'm hosting an event that was from last year's auction, and it's a cemetery walk at a Quaker cemetery in downtown Farmington. And the people who bid on it have already been notified, but there were a few that aren't able to make it. So if you're at all interested, and the tour will be conducted by a local historian, Brian Golden, who is here this morning. And I've been on tours with him before, and he really does a great job, and it's so interesting. So if you have a chance or you'd like to tour the Quaker Cemetery, it's on Gill Road this afternoon at 3 o'clock. check with me or with Brian after the service. Thanks.
Any other announcements? I do have one. September, we're in the middle of September and looking toward October for religious education volunteers. The kids are split up with the olders and the youngers, so we need more volunteers than we have in the past. I'm going to send around this clipboard, so please sign up to help out with RE. And we're just going to hang out and wait for our speaker to show up. So I'm not going to start the service till she shows up. Talk about how much you love teaching art. Helping out in RE.
Why don't we sing a song or something?
You can sing a song. What was the one that we? This land is your land. But.
Oh, I didn't bring the music.
Yeah, I know. That's a bad idea. Just bring that on. I'm sorry. Richard, you want to lead us in a song?
How about Spirit of Life 123?
We can do that. Okay.
Diana, play that?
Do it a couple of times? Not
Yeah.
very long.
Yeah, 2 times through. Stand up.
How many?
If you- 2.
Two. Okay.
That was nice. Thanks for that idea, Richard. Okay, now our speaker is here, so I'm going to ring the chimes for our prelude. To be a Unitarian Universalist means that we'll never be done with the work of telling the truth about oppression, the work of resisting any laws, policies, or practices that deny anyone their humanity, the work of stubbornly seeking out the spark of the divine in each other, no matter what, the work of creating heaven on earth. To be a Unitarian Universalist also means that we're not alone in the work. We're not alone because of our promise to love one another. We're not alone because we are companions in the journey. We grow ourselves into allies, helping one another get free, because none of us is truly free unless we are all free. Our traditional welcome is that we bid you welcome. We do not ask what you believe or expect you to think a certain way, but only that you try to live a kindly and helpful life with the dignity proper to a human being. Welcome all who believe that religion is wider than any sect and deeper than any set of opinions. Welcome all who find in our friendship strength and encouragement in daily living. Good morning, and welcome to the Universalist Unitarian Church of Farmington. I am Barb Eglinton, the program moderator. I'm not Liz Knight, which is what it says in the order of service. Liz is home with the flu, so I'm filling in for her, so let's keep her in our thoughts. And this morning, we are fortunate to have Nomi Joyrich with us. Nomi has a wealth of valuable information about the proposals that will be on the ballot in November. Because we don't have time during the service to dive deeply into the proposals, Nomi's agreed to stay after the service. We'll have a 15-minute break after the service for refreshments, and then she will tell us more about each of the proposals. And Ria Nair has agreed to stay and watch children, so we do have childcare if you have kids and want to stay for the deep dive. I want to extend a special welcome to any visitors today. After the service, we usually have a longer social hour and would like to meet you more. I don't see any visitors today. So, but while we're in the meeting house, we do observe a mandatory mask policy for COVID precautions, regardless of your vaccination status, unless you are speaking in front of the microphone. For joys and sorrows, the number in the order of service is Liz's, so we're not going to do the texting option today. If you have a joy or sorrow that you'd like to share, you can fill out a blue card in the pew and drop it in the offertory basket when it comes around, or come to the microphone at that time. And we've already done announcements. As we begin our service, we remember that our UU principles begin with our pledge to affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of all people. We are a welcoming congregation. We welcome into our community all races, sexual orientation, gender identity, and belief systems. Now please join with me as we recite our mission statement in the order of service. We seek answers everywhere, include everyone, and live with compassion. Now, please rise as you are willing and able to sing our first hymn, number 149, Lift Every Voice and Sing. Next time we sing that, we'll have to have the choir up front. It's a pretty song, but challenging. Now I want to introduce our speaker, Nomi Joyrich. Nomi has a Bachelor's of Arts degree from James Madison College. Michigan State University is where she focused on intergroup relations, sociology and psychology. She received her master's in social work from the University of Washington and worked as a perinatal social worker for the Seattle Indian Health Board and as a school social worker for the Seattle Public Schools. After becoming a mother, she moved back to Michigan and became a small business owner, making and selling jewelry, and owner and jewelry designer. A lifelong activist, Nomi is now on her third career as a social justice organizer. Nomi's has been particularly involved in campaign work, reproductive rights, and voter registration and protection. Most recently, she worked as a campaign coordinator and a manager for the Voter Protection Hotline. Nomi's the Michigan Director of Jews for a Secular Democracy and the Reproductive and Economic Justice Organizer for MooseGen, Michigan UU Social Justice Network. Please help me welcome Nomi.
So how do my slides show up? Where do? They're up. Oh, I was looking out. Hi, everyone. I'm reminded of my favorite quote from Eleanor Roosevelt that after she wrote a very long letter and said, "I'm sorry this is so long, but I didn't have enough time to make it brief." So, so I apologize. And I will also say that if people want to interrupt me with questions, then please feel free to do that. Okay, so I also should mention that we're working in partnership with Red, Wine, and Blue. And the Red, Wine, and Blue are spearheading a big relational organizing training. This program was designed by the relational organizing director for John Ossoff and Pete Buttigieg's campaigns. So there's some science behind the madness here. Okay. So what is relational organizing? It's really just the concept that talking to your friends is more effective than talking to strangers, in a nutshell. Data shows, I'll also say that I'm going to probably say things that I'm not going to just read the slides, so feel free to read them behind me. But data shows that a conversation between people you know or a text between people you know is just hugely more effective than canvassing, traditional campaign work where you're canvassing. So the messenger really matters. Like, for example, is there anyone here who's never gotten an automated text from an organization? And has everybody read carefully and responded to every single one of those? All right. But if you get a text from Barb, you're probably going to read it. Right? Or if Barb comes and knocks on your door, or you see Barb on your caller ID, you're probably going to answer the phone. So the first thing you want to do is you map out your network. And for people who live in a bubble, like I live in a bubble, all my relatives vote, all my friends vote, everyone in my congregation votes. So I'm in a bubble, but you have to reach outside of your bubble and think of who you know who might not be informed or who might not be fully informed or might not vote. So you want to think about your neighbors, maybe your nieces or your cousins, maybe the friends of your children, maybe the people in your book club or at your office or your gym, maybe it's your hairdresser or the Amazon delivery guy, so think about outside of your network. And think about, the last people you called. And another thing that a lot of times I forget about if you're active on social media, there are all these lurkers on social media. They may not comment, you may have never met them in real life, but they'll give a little thumbs up to some of your posts. that means those people are paying attention to you. So those are people you can reach out to. All right, so I'm going to talk more about this in a minute. We use a tool called Rally, which is at this website. I know none of you have anything to write down. I do have, by the way, I should mention that afterwards, I will get anybody's name and email address if you want to sign up, if you want me to send you the slides or more information, then I'll have a clipboard for you to sign up. All right, so the first thing you want to do is tell your friends what you're doing. Like, you want to be transparent. So you want to say something about, like, look, I'm so upset about all the ballot proposals and about the fall of Roe, and I just had to do something, so I signed up for this program where I'm trying to get my friends out to vote and make my friends more aware. So we're not trying to manipulate or sneak in with our friends without them realizing what we're doing. You know, we're being transparent. This is a part about fighting disinformation. Disinformation, I'm sure, you know, you've read all kinds of things about disinformation, and it really is rampant. And on a personal note, I want to say that disinformation is not always harmless. Sometimes it's extremely harmful. I know probably all of you or some of you have read about the family in Walled Lake where the father killed his wife and the family dog and injured his other daughter and then was killed by the police. It was just a few miles away from here. Well, one of the daughters was a classmate of my daughter's, and the mother who was shot was a friend of mine. And the family is very convinced that the reason why the father snapped was because of disinformation that he read online. And that was what put him down the rabbit hole. So disinformation is not just like, oh, well, they have their opinion and I have my opinion. It can be very dangerous in society. How do you fight disinformation? One thing is most of with relational organizing, where I'm never going to give you a list of strangers to call. I'm not giving you a call list or a walking list. You're going to be calling and talking to people in your own network or communicating on social media with people who are already in your own network. And you're going to have just natural conversations the way you talk to your friend normally. We're not scripting your conversation. But I am going to give you some messaging tips, and one of the most important ones is about fighting disinformation. So there are a lot of studies that say the most important thing is to not repeat the disinformation. So if somebody says something to you like, you know, I'm worried that the president's going to take my guns away, and you say, no one's taking your guns away, then what they hear is, you said something about guns, you said something about guns being taken away, the president is going to take my guns away. All right, so what you want to do is correct the misinformation without repeating it. So I'm not going to read all these. These are just examples that I personally came up with for myself. So one thing is, if somebody says, if the repro proposal passes, teens will be able to get surgery without their parents even knowing about it. That's not correct. So my response would be, the repro proposal will keep things like parental consent laws in place. So what I don't want to say is, no, your teenagers won't be able to get surgery without your consent. That's what I don't want to say. I want to correct it without repeating it. So another example is, you know, if this voting thing passes, there's just going to be rampant voter fraud. And so my response would be, our elections are safe and secure. So you have to kind of train yourself, because I think our first knee-jerk reaction is just to say, no, that's not right. You want to stand up for your own beliefs and state what your values are. So for me, I'm going to say medical decisions should be between a person and their doctor, and women should have the right to control their own bodies. That's my belief. You can't really argue with that because it's my belief. It's not a factual statement, but that is how I feel. You know, I believe that if we're going to send our young men and women into harm's way in the military, that the very least that we can do is to help protect their vote. I believe that. By the way, with the Promote the Vote, which I'm sure you've all heard of, the single most popular aspect of that proposal is protecting the military vote, which I'll talk about more in the deep dive. So when you're having a conversation, there's no point in trying to convince somebody to change their mind. Like, I think you all know that if somebody comes and tries to convince you to vote in a way that is polar opposite of your values, it doesn't matter how often they talk to you, you're not going to change your mind, right? And so don't waste your time and energy trying to argue with people who already have a set feeling that has an opposing viewpoint. But when it is important to correct disinformation or to engage in the conversation is if there are other people watching. So let's say we're at the coffee social hour and I hear you tell somebody, well, people, if this passes, then teenagers are going to be able to get abortions without their parents' consent. So I don't want everyone else in the room who heard somebody say that to walk away with misinformation. So that's why I'm going to correct it, not to try and convince the person who said it, but to try and convince the people who are watching. And this is especially true on social media, that if you're on, I mean, you probably all have somebody in your social media world who just says things that, you really disagree with. So that person has social media friends who are watching the conversation. So that's the reason to engage, is for the sake of the onlookers. But I will go back for a moment to say about social media that if something is just rife with, like, everyone on the thread is just people you're not going to agree with, I wouldn't comment at all, because when you comment, it just raises them in the algorithm and it gets more eyeballs seeing those posts. So when you're talking to people that you disagree with, it's important to try and find common ground. We all have some shared values. Even people who you think you have nothing in common with, there are things that you share with them. So, for example, for me, this is one of the most important ones. We all want to enjoy religious liberty, and that's why I want to safeguard the separation between church and state. I mean, I think it's true that everybody wants religious liberty. I think you'll have a hard time finding someone in this country who would disagree with that first statement. So that's common ground. It's this "that's why" phrase that connects it. I know you really care about your privacy, and so do I. And that's why I want people to be able to control their own bodies and make medical decisions with their doctors. I think everybody cares about their own privacy. I don't think you're going to find anybody who says, oh yeah, I'm just going to take my curtains down and walk around naked. I don't care about my privacy. Everybody cares about their privacy. So I will say in messages that I have to, I just got this information last night, so I just added this slide as was. There was just a huge poll done by the Reproductive Freedom Campaign testing extremely specific messages, like changing one word at a time, for how effective it was. And I will send that slide deck to anybody who gives me their information. But one of the key things I took away from it was that many of us have a real value, that we realize that some of these laws disproportionately affect people of color. And what we found was that when we use messaging like that, like this disproportionately affects black women, that was not effective. And that in fact, there were many black women who found it to be blaming and offensive, which was not the intention of the message. But what is effective is when you say everyone, regardless of race or ethnicity, should have these freedoms. So I just wanted to point out that one part of the message. But as I said, this slide deck has many different messages that are tested extensively, and if you want to have those. So when you're having your conversations and you find allies, which you will find many allies, then don't just go, oh great, I'm glad we agree, and walk away. You want to recruit them. I'm doing this relational organizing program, and I want you to do it too. I want you to help with this, because I think we all know by now that voting is not enough. We need to do way more than just vote. You want to stay focused. This is about your town. It's about your kids. It's about your school district. It's about your freedom. This is not the time to have a conversation about the Inflation Reduction Act, about Hillary's emails, about the UN. We, we don't, I mean, I'm not saying we don't care about those things, but they're not relevant to this conversation. You want to make sure that it stays very focused. So what you're going to do is you're going to choose your contacts, you're going to add them into this tool called Rally, which I'm going to show you in a minute, and Rally will track it. Will track it for you. Nobody else sees the contacts that you put in Rally. It's not like you're giving these contacts to a campaign. Nobody's going to contact them other than you. It's just for you to keep track of them. So.
Something happened with the internet.
Oh. Okay. Perfect. Segue for me. Okay. I have, oh, here it is. Am I up? Well, this is a great time if anybody has any questions. Does anyone have any questions so far? So what we're going to want everyone to do, if you want to be involved with this, is to identify at least 10 people who you're going to talk to. And I will go further and say that nobody who is in this room can count as one of your 10 people. if you know that your friend Sue votes in every election, then you don't get to count her. I want you to think of 10 people who you feel like really need this message. Although you can talk to your friend Sue, who you know votes in every election, to try and get her on board and see if she can also help. Am I back? Okay, let me show you this short video. Let me try and show you this short video. Oh, I am on, why isn't this playing? Is this gonna play? Okay, I will not show you this short video because it's taking too long to load. It will probably start playing on its own as soon as I leave the screen. All right, let me. Okay, so I have screenshots of it. Anyway, so when you get to this app, it's a browser, it's not an app, then you choose your state, and you're gonna add your contacts. Are you coming to help me? Okay. All right. You want me to, can I pull up the video again?
No, pull up your
What?
your sharing went away.
This,
Pull up this for me.
thank goodness you have a tech person and you weren't thinking I was gonna be able to figure this out. I always say that my superpower is getting technology to stop working. It's not very useful. All right, why did this get to be so small? Okay. Now is it gonna play? Yikes. Is it playing? Okay, it's not gonna play, so we're not gonna worry about it because we're just not. But it is, so as I just told you, my superpower was not understanding technology, and even I could use this program, so it actually is really easy. You put in your contact, and so like I'm gonna put in Barb, so here's Barb Ingleton. If I have a nickname for her, I can put it in, and then, oh, this is me, somebody started putting me in. Okay, so you start putting it in. How old are they approximately? Maybe you don't know exactly how old I am, but approximately. and then it will match it. If you have a friend whose name is Nomi Joyrich, you're going to be the only one. That's going to be the only person coming up is going to be me. If I have a friend named Pam Brown, then there's going to be a lot of them coming up, but it will give me a chance to just say approximately where that person lives. You don't need to have all of their information. So it starts out by saying, do you think that I'm going to vote for this reproductive freedom proposal? Okay, let's just say, oh, sorry about this, the video's a lot, I apologize. Will they vote for it? Okay, I'm a maybe. Whoever's talking to me says maybe. Maybe she'll vote for it, maybe she won't. So then it will give me options of how I can follow up with them. It will give me tips. Ballot Ready is a tool that's not going to be available until the 19th, which is, it gives everybody sample ballot all the way down to the school board races. It's similar to Ballotpedia, but Ballotpedia only has the higher level offices. And to me, the school board races are some of the most important ones. So Ballotpedia is going to be an excellent tool. It will also tell you things like whether or not your friend is registered to vote, whether or not they've received an absentee ballot. So, and it will give you tips about how to have a conversation with them. So you basically just follow the prompts, and until, okay, my friend has convinced me that I'm voting for the repro, now I'm listed as a definitely, and this is this person's contact list. This is, yes.
Does that information go anywhere else?
Nowhere else. Nowhere else.
Okay.
It doesn't go anywhere else. Yeah, and everybody asks that because if you start giving your friends names to campaigns, then they're going to be unhappy with you. We don't want that. we don't want that. So it only goes to you. Another thing, and this is a hugely important facet of it, is that a couple times a week there's something called a trouble huddle. And this is just a virtual meetup of all the volunteers to get together and say, this is what's working, this is not what's working, this is, I tried to have this conversation and it went south, what do you recommend? I don't know who to call, I don't have anyone on my list. So it's just whatever, it's like just a support group troubleshooting with the red, wine, and blue staff. And this happens a couple times a week. So when you sign up, you'll get informed about those. This is, to me, probably the most important aspect of it. And we want you to ask your friends to become troublemakers. I will also say that in terms of traditional campaigning, because people need to do that too, Mooston is hosting weekly phone and text banks. We would love to have your help. We would love to have you join us. Everything that Mooston does is nonpartisan, so we never talk about any candidates. We only talk about the issues. We only help people register to vote and talk about the ballot issues. We don't, we never talk about partisan politics. Any questions? This is me. Usually when I do the slide presentation, people are at their computer so they can write it down, but like I said, I'll have everyone sign up. I will, as Barb mentioned, after the service, do a deep dive into all 3 statewide proposals and the Oakland County proposal. And I will be happy and thrilled to meet everybody then. Thank you.
Thank you, Nomi. That's super informative and challenging. I'm looking forward to hearing more about the proposals. So we now will take our offering and know that it is given and received in grateful appreciation of our shared hopes and values. perfect heart is one that has known love and loss, joy and sorrow. A perfect heart is one that has been shared, as joys and sorrows of our community are shared. Please direct your energy and prayers and meditations as a gift of compassion and strength. So, does anyone have a? Remember the unspoken joys and sorrows among us. We all carry them around with us. Our closing words today are, be doers of the word and not merely hearers, those who look into the perfect law, the law of liberty, and preserve being, not hearing, who forget, but doers who act, they will be blessed in their doings. Diana? Thank you, Diana. Great way to end that. So I just want to say that relational organizing, I think, is a method of getting out your message that recognize the inherent worth and dignity of all people, because we're not forcing opinions to change. We're respecting other people's opinions and, recognizing friendship and trying to find common ground. So I just think it really fits in with our principles. So we'll take a 15-minute break, so come back at 11:35 if you want to hear more about the proposals.